Hello, everyone. My name is Evelyn McGovern, and I am the president and co founder of Women of Colors, and that's with an S on the end. We're celebrating 30 years of uninterrupted services this year, and our mission promotes diversity, equity, and inclusiveness for the empowerment of families by providing services to strengthen communities and enhance collaborative relations in the Great Lakes Bay region and beyond. Women of Colors host monthly community forums to educate and bring awareness of different topics of interest to help individuals and families. Our forums include How I Overcame. That's a platform for women sharing their incredible stories of how they overcame challenges in life to become successful. I'm Still a Man. It's men panelists sharing rich stories about their lived experiences and time to have a conversation. We address topics such as the criminal justice system, domestic violence, and more. This evening, part two of Health Matters Mind, Body, and Soul. So I want you to sit back, relax this evening, and enjoy our conversation. But do me a favor, click like and share if you're on Facebook. And right now, I just want to thank our sponsors, Michigan Public Health Institute. And ladies and gentlemen, it is time to have a conversation. I'm excited to introduce to you our host, Dr. Kai Anderson.
Good evening.
Oh, and I want Dr. Kai, I just want to tell them a little something about you. Dr. Kai is an assistant professor of psychiatry at Central Michigan University. She is an associate psychiatrist residency program director of psychotherapy training and ambulatory behavioral health care, and faculty led for the social justice, anti-racism, and equity curriculum. She earned her bachelor's degree from Wayne State University as well as her medical degree. Dr. Anderson completed her residency at Northwestern University and is board certified by the American Board of Psychiatry in neurology in adult psychiatry and forensic psychiatry. Her area of interest includes child abuse and neglect, public health, social culture, determinants of health, anti-racism, education, and forensic psychiatry. As a former as a former psychiatrist for the Third Circuit Court Juvenile Division in Detroit, Michigan, she has extensive experience working with youth and child welfare and juvenile justice systems that have been impacted by adverse childhood experiences. In addition, she has a private practice in Redford, Michigan, where she provides care to children, adults, and families in the metropolitan Detroit area. Dr. Anderson is committed to ensuring that every individual is provided with access to quality, clinically sound, culturally sensitive health care regardless of their circumstances. Welcome, Dr. Kai. And she's also a board member of Women of Colors.
Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction, Evelyn McGovern. I'm very happy to be here tonight to talk with our guests.
You're welcome. So I want to introduce our special guest. And first, I want to introduce Shortorah Carter. Shortorah Carter was born and raised in Saginaw, Michigan, married and mother of 5 children. She attended and obtained her bachelor's in social work from Eastern Michigan University with intellectual and developmental disabilities for the past 5 years of her career as a rehabilitation counselor and director of vocational rehabilitation. After giving birth to her son, who was born with Down syndrome in 2017, she became an advocate for children and adults with special needs. Later, she started her nonprofit to help make a difference in the lives of parents that have children with special needs. She is the founder and president of Grateful Love Foundation, which she has her 501c3 that is on a mission to educate, advocate, and empower individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities ages birth to 18. She strives to enhance the lives of individuals with disabilities by creating inclusive environments that provide educational, daily living skills, and social engagement. She is a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority and enjoys being involved in many and making difference in our community. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you for that beautiful introduction.
Oh, thank you for just being here. All right. And our next guest is Cherie Long. After raising a daughter with special needs, Cherie recognized a gap in services and opportunities available to adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So she founded Heart of the City Development Center. It's also a 501c3 nonprofit organization to help meet the social and educational needs of her adult daughter, Alexis Travis, and other individuals like her. Cherie said the ISD system ages out at age 26, and Alexius is 24 years old, and she started wondering, okay, what is she going to do when Alexis turns 26? Cherie wants to create a program like the ISD model and work with the school systems to help students make the transition into the program that she created called Heart of the City Development Center. This program will give opportunities beyond secondary education to help special needs students maintain their critical learning skills and provide a safe space for adults with disabilities to learn, grow, and engage with others. Cerise said adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities don't have a lot of options, and she wants people to know supporting them is supporting our community. Community sponsors help with monthly events, and Cherie is currently working to offer educational programming by January 2024 with a focus on critical skills that include learning, kitchen safety, money management, how to use public transportation, adaptive physical education, physical ed, how to call for help if needed, computer skills, communication, and interview skills, which are skills most people take for granted. But with individuals with special needs, if they don't use these skills every day, they will forget them. Cherie's social events are accessible to individuals with intellectual and mental disabilities of all ages and those without a disability. And so everyone, I introduce to you, Cherie.
Hi, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, Dr. Kai.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Evelyn, for those wonderful introductions. I'm so excited to hear from Cherie and Shortorah, so we'll go ahead and get started. I'll begin with Shortorah. If you can please tell me what inspired you to develop the Grateful Love Foundation. Tell me a little bit about your story, your backstory.
When I was 26 years old, I gave birth to my son who has Down syndrome. I actually found out he had Down syndrome the next day after giving birth to him when his pediatrician came in there to check on him. So after we left the hospital and everything was confirmed from the testing that came back, I started doing my research. I was looking for the closest support group. The closest one was in Mount Pleasant. Of course, I wasn't going to drive that far. Single parent mother, I wasn't going to drive to Mount Pleasant for a support group. So I decided to enroll my son in early intervention, and I decided to organize my first Down syndrome walk so that I can meet other parents that walked in my shoes. I had the first Down syndrome walk, and then I decided to do my first parent support group. And then from there, seeing parents that struggled a lot with their child that had disabilities, and then they did not know about the resources that were out there. So I wanted to make sure that they were able to get those resources. So I decided to create Grateful Love, so that I can empower, advocate, and educate those parents. So it started out with me having my Down syndrome walks, having the parent support groups, and then putting on social events in the community. I would receive inboxes from other parents that were having a difficult time, from trying to work, be a single parent mother, and raise your child that has a disability, and then live in a city that doesn't have many resources or agencies for your kids to go to. That is what made me decide to mainstream my son as well. So I put him in the Saginaw Township schools after he did the early on education. And I was noticing that a lot of parents that I talked to only felt like their option was the Millette Center. So that's another part of me having the Grateful Love Foundation, because those parents need to be able to, know those resources. Their kids should be able to attend Saginaw Township schools, city schools, regular schools. They should be able to mainstream their child and feel like their child is not feel like their child is in a not safe environment, or they're not going to learn like the other kids. So that's mainly why I created Grateful Love.
Well, that is a beautiful story. So you noticed a need with the birth of your son,
Yes.
Nehemiah. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yes.
Oh, I see sitting next to you. It's so
Yes.
wonderful. And you decided to fill that need, and make sure that all children have access to this quality services. That's really touching. As you began to on your journey, did you encounter any obstacles along the way in terms of setting up your foundation?
The obstacles, well, I learned the information because I'm a social worker. So it's easier for me to obtain that information versus someone that's not in the field or doesn't work in the field. I worked as a rehab counselor. So that is how I was able to obtain a lot of the information that a lot of parents don't know. They don't know about a lot of services that their child can receive. So obstacles for me is, I wanted to be a part of a support group in my community. They had no support groups here. There were no inclusive activities for children that have disabilities. So I had to venture out and create my own. So, which is sad, that they didn't have that here. So a lot of obstacles, a lot of bumps along the way.
But yet you persevered, and you have your 501c3.
That's right.
What did you do to overcome those obstacles? How do you fund your organization? How can the community help to support you?
The organization is funded by sponsorships, donations. That is what mainly funds it. I mean, sometimes when you're first starting out, you have to come out of your pocket yourself. So, I funded it in the beginning, and I received sponsorships and donations. And of course, you apply for grants, and that is how the donation is funded.
Wonderful. And you accept grants from anybody and funds from anybody at this time, so people can reach out
If
to you
you
through your.
apply for the grants. And I can say that's the obstacle too. It's hard obtaining some of those grants out there that I apply for.
In terms of the community support, how can the community continue to support you?
Having the community come out to the events that we put on. I mean, the events are free events. They're all inclusive. I mean, even if you have a child with a disability, you know, most of the time the parents feel like a lot of shame, or they feel like they're going to be judged when they bring their kids out to these events. But knowing that we have volunteers there that will help them, we're there to help them. You know, their child deserves to be included. It's an all inclusive event. So having them show up, like, the events are free, and a lot of people don't show up to these events that we have in the community for the youth.
Where do you usually have these events?
So they're at different places. So like I had a safari event. Those kids got educated on the animals, exotic animals, snakes and turtles, and that was at the SBRC marketplace. And then I have a superhero costume party that's coming up. So the events are in the community, you know.
Can you talk more about the one that's coming up?
So the superhero costume party is an all-inclusive social event as well. There'll be face painting. There'll be a DJ there for the kids to, you know, dance and that kind of thing, and to mingle with their peers too that don't have disabilities. Like, to me, it's a learning environment for their peers too that don't have the disability, to start understanding that they need to start including their peers. I mean, we're all different. So to me, it's an educational environment for everybody.
So you focus on inclusion, as you said, and making sure that all children are able to participate in these events. It's not
That's a
just for
big thing
individuals.
in the community. Yes, inclusion. That's why when it comes to my son, I mainstreamed him, but I make sure that he is able to participate in sports and do things as well too. So he runs track. I mean, he sings in the choir at church. He participates on the usher board, because I feel like he could do anything any other kid can do. It just takes him a little longer. And that's where the other kids have to learn the patience.
And I think that's a wonderful thing. The other children can work with you to learn how to be patient and learn those skills, which are so important. I want to hear a lot more about your programming, but I want to turn to Cherie at first and ask her some questions as well. Okay. So Cherie, can you tell me what inspired you on your journey to your Heart of the City Development Center?
Well, what inspired me is that I have a daughter, Alexis, who's here.
Hi, Alexis.
And I was inspired, one, because as Shortorah, I found out Lexi had a disability after I had her. Probably around the age of 1. I was taking her to doctor's appointments, and they were just saying she was lazy, but I started questioning and advocating, and I met a lady by the name of Kathy McNally, who was also a birth through 5 teacher. And I started letting her know my concerns. So she actually, along with my family, backed me up, and she educated me on how to advocate, what questions to ask, what things to do. Because as a young single mother like Shortorah herself, I didn't really know what to do. You know, when you decide to have a child, you know, you think of this perfect child, and you have a child with a disability, and you're kind of, I'm going to say, stumped, because you don't know what to do. So what I started to do was talk to the educators in the area, started educating myself. And as she grew older, I learned to advocate. But as is Shortorah, I had to dig for information. It's nothing readily available or nothing that's out there in the community. My daughter started the transition process, it's called, as she gets older. So during the transition process, they start getting you prepared for them to leave school. So when we got to this transition process, I started looking for services that aren't clinically motivated, that aren't clinically structured, just for her to go to. And there wasn't any programs that are not clinically structured. So I started to wonder, okay, what is she going to do? So what I decided to do was research what's going on in the area. Was there a need for it? And I found there was a need. There was a need for those individuals who are transitioning out of the secondary education system to have a place to go like we do. We have college, we have military, we have trade schools. My daughter herself can never test to enter any of these programs. So why isn't she afforded or made these services available? So I started searching about my 501c3. I got my 501c3. I started creating programs, social events, first of all, to promote inclusion as well as educate the community. And I not only want to educate the community, I also want to educate those people in charge of legislation because I feel like there are leaders. And if they are not paying attention to the issues, the people in the community will not pay attention to the issues. So I started doing the inclusion events as with Shortorah, as well as doing some educational events, computer skills, trade skills, self-determination skills, teaching them to function as functional community members. And like I said, just the biggest issue is inclusion and getting people to pay attention. And like I said, it's not just the community and teaching the kids to interact, but to me, it starts at the top. If we don't have good representation showing them that this is what we're supposed to do, people tend to follow, the leaders. And if the leaders aren't paying attention to these people with disabilities, nobody else is it. And so that's my fight. I'm fighting a uphill battle, as my grandma would say.
That is so important to continue to advocate for all individuals. I think both you and Shortorah touched on something I want to highlight. You talked about being young mothers, having children that had disabilities and kind of not knowing where to go. What advice do you have for any other individuals that are in that same situation? How should they navigate this very complex health system we have?
My advice would be, don't be afraid to ask for help. Mm-hmm. Don't be afraid to go out, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a church member, whether it's Miss Evelyn or Miss Kai. Ask for help, because we may not know the answers, but we may know somebody who can help you. Let people advocate and join in the fight with you. Don't be ashamed. God gave us these kids for a reason, and it's a reason he put us in the front line. So don't be ashamed. That would be mine.
Exactly.
Mine would be the same. Ask for advice. But another thing too is with Down syndrome, usually they don't test for that until you're 35. But what we are noticing now is a lot of the younger mothers are having kids who have disabilities. So I would ask for those tests, because the earlier you know, the earlier you can get intervention for your child.
Yeah.
So how early do you think it should be?
I think they should test during pregnancy.
During pregnancy.
They should ask for that test.
And I think those are important things to mention, because sometimes you don't feel like you can ask for certain things. And as a patient, as a student, as a parent, you have the right to ask for whatever you need for your children.
Mm-hmm. And I also feel like she said, ask for those things, but also for a lot of our doctors, be culturally aware, because a lot of people aren't culturally aware, and they tend to not pay attention to minorities. But sometimes you got to pay attention, because we're not going to go through what they went through. They're not going to go through what we went through. And yes, you learn from a book, but sometimes you got to stop and pay attention to it.
Hello. That's huge. That is huge.
It is very important. Our patients, our students are our best teachers, and we need to learn from them at all times. And as you said, if you are a marginalized individual, you're more likely to be ignored.
Right.
So you got to feel comfortable speaking up and speaking out.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How did you meet? How did you two meet?
I'll let you tell that story, Shortorah.
All right. I listened to Cherie's interview on the radio station, and I swear it was like God tapped me on the shoulder and told me to give her a phone call. So I called her, and we had a conversation, and it went from there. I showed up at her first event, and I'm hands-on too. Like I'm not going to come to someone's event and just sit there. Right. So she had her event, and I showed up, and I was hands-on. I'm passing out food and, giving the cupcakes, and it went from there.
Yeah.
So did you have Grateful Love Foundation already before you met her?
Did.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. We both had our own 501c3s, and then once I talked to her, I was actually the week of her walk, so I got my family together. It was probably about 10 of us, and we went out and we supported her. We didn't know her, but we went out and supported her and I think me and her, I always say we have matching hearts, because one thing about us is that we're not going to just show up and see, we're going to show up and do. So we support each other, and we also go out and support other people.
That's awesome. That's community. That's what you call
Right.
community and unity. Yes.
Definitely. And how long have these organizations been in existence? How long have you guys been working at this?
Ooh, Grateful Love has been in existence for a little over a year.
Okay.
Yep, and mine is a little over a year. Our 1 year birthday was August 14th.
Okay, wonderful. And you mentioned you guys work together. Do you have any joint events coming up?
Uh,
Well, all
yeah,
our events are really joint.
yeah.
Okay.
Really?
All of-
Okay.
Okay.
Yep, most of our events are joint. We try to support each other or donate to each other and sponsor each other. So we try to, keep them together. So that way we're offering services to K through 55, not just that small group to promote inclusion. And by those both being, sponsorships, we try to get a broad, audience.
So have you ever written a grant together?
We've never written a grant together.
Oh,
I've
you
written,
have
but
to. You have
we're
to.
learning.
Collaboration is the key.
Oh,
That's what funders are looking for.
Okay.
okay. And actually, we're working on that. So actually,
Okay.
we sat down with legislator Amos O'Neill, and we did discuss with him about the services in the grants. There are not a lot of grants available for adult education programs, and from what our legislators are saying, it used to be. But we want to know where that funding is, because you have all this money for daycares. But what they don't understand is you have day programs, you have after school, before school, but none of them cater to those disabled individuals. So why isn't that? Why are they being left behind or forgotten? They're the forgotten individuals, because a lot of times people with individuals, thank God I have a family support, but a lot of them can't afford to work because there's no one to keep their child and there's no services to help them, which means poverty sets in, which means the workforce is lessened because they can't go out and work. Even if they wanted to, they can't. And like my daughter, I'm not going to leave her with anybody. I have to be comfortable to go to work. I can't just go to work.
That is so important. As you said, we need to kind of focus on changing the laws so that we have support in the services that these individuals need.
Yes.
And you mentioned, this is a non-clinical program. Can you explain that in more detail, what you mean by non-clinical and what you provide?
So mine is no clinical. So say if I'm having a movie night, everybody comes in, they are treated just like you and I. They come in, they watch a movie, they eat popcorn, they socialize. It is not a locked door. It is not, they can't leave until somebody comes to get them. I usually include the family. We include the family because we want them to enjoy it together and for the family to be able to relax, because we are there to support and help them. But most programs, when you go, you drop them off, they lock the door. They're not prisoners, they are people. So I feel like they need to really get rid of that clinical piece when they're dealing with people with disabilities. Because, it may be some safety issues for some people, but that is not every disabled individual.
Exactly. And I wasn't even aware of that in some of these settings that they have
to have a lockdown.
Well, let me ask you this. So we're African-American Black women, right?
Correct.
Is your programs diverse?
My program is very diverse. You're blue, black, purple. We love everybody. We invite everybody. If you need help, I don't care what color you are. If you need me to come sit in as a doctor's appointment with you, I will sit in a doctor's appointment. If you need me to get on the phone and find some resources for you, I'll do that. I don't care what color you are. Love is love, blood is blood, and I love everybody. And that's how I was raised.
Yeah.
Or
if you need to just talk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mine is open for that too, because some parents just, they just need to talk sometimes.
Yes, sometimes you gotta cry it out.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It's okay to cry it out, because I've had many cry nights where, I started feeling like, my daughter's 24. I want to see that grandchild. I want to see that wedding. And sometimes I have to cry, but then I have to take a step back and say, God bless me with her for a reason. Because this right here, a dancing machine, y'all. Karaoke. And but she taught me to look with my heart and not with my eyes. My daughter loved everybody. She loved people, and she has taught me a lot.
Aw,
that is so sweet.
I want to see her dance. One day.
Not today. But I agree with her on that. I think hard times for me is Nehemiah has Down syndrome. So the males that have Down syndrome, they are not able to have children. I know I did have a difficult time because, when you have a boy, they either playing football or basketball. And I played basketball when I was in school. So he tried out for the basketball team and he didn't make it. And that really took a toll on me too. So sometimes it's things like that can really bother you and make you feel a little down. But then you have to remember, like, God gave him to you for a reason.
That's right.
Yes.
And go ahead.
Go ahead.
And I feel like what Shortorah said, like him trying out for the basketball team. So my daughter kind of grew up in the Florida area. So they had all those programs where you can join the basketball team, you can join the cheerleading team. And I feel too, within the Saginaw County area, I'm going to say that they also need to address those issues with these coaches. Yes, I know everybody don't want to be involved, but you just may have somebody like me and Shortorah who want to come in and volunteer to help you so you can include those people. They may not make a basket, but it's okay.
Right.
It's okay to include them. They have to get out of this always got to win mentality and make it a community mentality.
Yes. That is so important. Inclusion, as you said.
Yes.
And that's what we should be focusing on.
Or even if they let them just practice with the team. They have to get in. Just to be a part.
Yeah. And you just may know what they may teach them, the kids.
Exactly. And that's how I felt. Like he may teach these kids something.
Yeah.
So, Cherie, as you began with your organization, you kind of touched on some of the obstacles with no legislation and no services. Were there any other obstacles that you wanted to mention that we should focus on helping you to address?
Well, so like I said, the funding is a big issue because there are not a lot of grants out there. Now, there, like for our social programs, there's a grant for, like we did a STEM program, we did a back to school event. So there's little funding out there for that. But to start a program where those that are ending secondary education age out, and they have a program kind of like, I forget what it's called now, COC, because I'm old. So the COC, kind of like those programs that's modeled off of the ISD that they can go to. They may not ever graduate for college or go to college, but they still should have a facility that they can continue growing and learning those skills around here. And they're not, they're building skill, all these different stores and schools, but where is the services that are going to continue past that secondary education for people with disabilities?
So we need to reach out to our legislators and let them know that we
and I have
see those.
Yep, I have been. I've talked to Lieutenant Governor, I've talked to Amos O'Neill, Christina Rivet, and I will continue to do so.
Wonderful. So you mentioned that your organizations are inclusive. Anybody can join. The services are free. Is that correct? Or are there fees for certain services?
They're free.
Free. That is really wonderful. That is wonderful. As you think about, go ahead, Evelyn, you had a question?
No, go ahead.
Now, if you talk to an individual that's in your program, what do you think they would say is the most important thing that they've gotten out of the program? Neither one of you can respond first.
Go ahead, Shortorah.
I would say the resources, having their child feel included. I noticed that a lot during the safari event. Those kids were excited to be able. That was some of their first time holding a snake.
Wow.
Yes, mine too.
I don't think I could hold a snake.
No, I have never.
It was hard. I'm telling you, I took the whole thing to the last 10 minutes.
Yep. And then a lot of the parents are excited to see that there are activities and events in the community now that are all inclusive where their kids can be included too.
Yeah. So the whole family can come to that event.
The whole family. Yeah.
Wonderful. And what would you say some of the highlights that people have felt and gotten from your events, Cherie? Similar to Shortorah's?
I would say similar. Social inclusion, the feeling of belonging. We live in a society that everybody tends to follow a trend, and the trend is really setting people with disabilities to the side and just feeling included in a community. A lot of people just they thank me, like, thank you for having these events, thank you for including us.
Oh, that's nice.
That is wonderful. So we kind of talked about inclusion, and we kind of touched a little bit on the stigma. The stigma you can have from having a child with disabilities. What are some of the advice you can give to individuals and their families and how to address handling the stigma with your children, with your families?
Yeah.
You want to go first? You want me?
You can go.
Go for it.
I can't really say I experienced that because from the beginning, like when I had my son, when it was confirmed that he had Down syndrome, my mother stated to me, "You will not be ashamed of him." And from then on, it was just in my head that, you know, I had this beautiful baby boy. I will not be ashamed of him. Soon as he turned 6 weeks, I had him in the church. I always took him out. So I really didn't have that, but I know a lot of parents have, to where they've kept their kids, you know, hidden in the house and they don't take them out. I make him a part of things. I make sure he is included.
Yep.
So I can't really say I've experienced that because of the way I advocate for my son. And that's what we're trying to teach other parents to do.
So you don't notice people staring at you or giving you a funny look, any of that?
When I say when he was a baby, maybe, you know, people look like, oh, and it's like little kids mostly that don't, you know, really understand. They know like, oh, well, he looks different from me, but not anything from like, you know.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's
And
great.
I think that's beautiful that your mother was able to tell you right away, you know, you don't treat him any differently, don't have any separate feelings about him. No, he's a beautiful child, your child that you're going to love and present to the world.
Right.
That is beautiful. If someone is struggling with that, I assume you have the support groups that will help them to address that as well.
Yes. Or if they, you know, want to talk or they need advice on certain things. But I mean, God gave you your child for a reason. I mean, it's a gift. So you shouldn't be ashamed of your child anyway. Your child can learn just like any other child. It just may take them a little bit longer. But all of us have some form of disability. I mean, none of us are perfect. So it's just that my son you can see his on the outside, but some people can be messed up on the inside.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
And Cherie, what advice would you have for individuals that are coping with stigma, whether it's themselves, their family, their siblings?
So, as is myself, I deal with some of it because most people see my daughter and they say, "Oh, she's disabled." I didn't know that. What does disabled look like? That's why I ask people, like, what does disabled look like? Disabled does not have a certain look, and I think a lot of that is stigmatized. We're disabled to dress a certain way, look a certain way, talk a certain way, and it's not. So I would feel like I would tell the community as well as those people who come to our events. Educate them on what disability is and how to treat people. I spread positivity to promote the inclusion and just treat them like people. Also be supportive. For I know a lot of individuals that the families, you know, they don't have supportive families like me and Shortorah, and a lot of family will shun you or shame you to not going into the community to get help. And we have to get away from that too, because if a person has a child with a disability, that's the last thing they need is for their family to be on the other side of that line. They need you. They need the support more than they know. With my family, let me tell you, my whole family, my immediate family, they don't stand on Lexi's side for they stand on mine. I don't know where Lexi at, what she's doing. We had her birthday party. Even the transition center, I'm going to give very positive, because when I moved back to Michigan and I put my daughter in transition center, I was that mother. I was going to call you every hour. I was going to be up there if y'all ain't answer the phone. But when I met these people, they made me feel so comfortable. My baby go there. If the bus not on time, they call me. I don't have to call them. With a bus late, we just letting you know. You know, they make you feel like it's a family and it's okay to send her out to let her learn these things, and she in a safe environment. And that's why I chose to actually model my program off the transition center, because they not only are doing their job, they care. It's a difference. Anybody can do the job. It takes a certain group of people to care.
Right.
That is so important. And you can feel that when you're getting those services, whether someone is going through the motions or whether they really care about the services that they're providing.
And I can feel through my daughter. too, because if she has, since COVID, she has started talking and she know how to use computer skills, but they made the initiative during COVID to make sure that they were a part of that online learning. Whether it was doing, they would do PE for hours online, they would do music class. They didn't shun them or stop them from learning because they didn't know about computers. They included them, they included the families, and my baby can get on the computer and do stuff now. And I'm very grateful for them for that. Because
so you can't go ahead, I'm sorry.
I just said because they included her.
So your program kind of takes it to another level. After they start the transition center, you continue to work with them on those same skills.
Yeah, because a lot of times you, like, I'm just going to give an example of people, because my mother ran an adult foster care home for years. A lot of times you put them in the, like, adult foster care homes because people have to work and they can't afford just to keep them at home and stay at home. So they put them in the AFC homes and they lose those skills. They can't go in the kitchen and cook anymore. They're not sitting down reading anymore. They're not going into the community. And I also feel like it should be a law made with those AFC homes of taking them in a community. I think that should be a law. If they are given responsibility and they're getting paid by state funds, they should be made allowed at least once a week to take these people in the community to get them those social needs. Look how we acted during COVID. We was about to tear the city because we couldn't go to the community. So just imagine how they feel not ever being invited, not ever being included.
Exactly. And as a psychiatrist, I was going to say, I know you don't focus on mental illness per se,
but
I would love to see those programs for individuals with mental illness as well.
Yeah, yes.
These social programs.
Yeah, and the social was a big part of our lives, and people don't look at that with people with disabilities. They need that. They need us.
So maybe you guys can think about expanding it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Because we need the social skills, the computer skills, the educational skills, and they're kind of just put into the AFC homes and nothing else happens after that.
Yes, and most of them decline. They lose those skills and they decline. But I refuse to let that happen to mine.
That is wonderful.
Do you have any help? Do either of you have any help besides each other? When you're having your events,
yes. Our whole family come out.
Yep. Family, board members.
Every event.
Okay, good.
Every event we have at least 5 to 6 family members from me and 5 to 6 from her. We also always have a lot of people who volunteer. They sign up online and get in contact with us and come out and they volunteer. Yeah.
Awesome. That is great.
So what are the dates of the next event again? So I can keep that in mind.
I have an event on September 16th at the SBRC Marketplace in the ballroom. And it's from 3 to 6 p.m.
And this is the
superhero costume party.
Okay.
And my next event is September 9th at Buena Vista Community Center at 1940 South Outer Drive, and it's from 3 to 6. It is an anti-bullying event and positive communication. We are focusing on ages 10 to 18, and we're focusing on that group because we want them to be able to communicate through anger. We want them to be able to approach teachers because unfortunately teachers aren't always the first choice to go to because sometimes they're having a bad day and the kids feel like they can't talk to them. So we want to give them resources to reach out if they need somebody to talk to. We have a couple basketball coaches. We have Amos O'Neill and a couple of officers coming. We're going to give those numbers out because maybe they just need somebody to talk to outside of that circle to stop the violence, to give them another way out besides this violent way that a lot of them are taking.
And that is so important. Or you can also model skills and what they can say to the bullies.
Yep, and positive communication, how to interview. A lot of them don't know how to communicate. They're technical kids. That's what I call them. They on the phone. They can type perfectly, but a lot of them don't know how to talk and communicate. So we're gonna give them a chance to run the show. So we're not gonna run the show. We're gonna ask a few questions, but we're gonna let them run the show and tell them what we need. But also, we're not gonna do it once. We're trying to do this every other month because we don't want them to feel like, oh, we're doing it for show. We're doing it because we're gonna show up and we're gonna keep showing up.
So I have a question on that note. So you have other children, right? So
yes,
how do they handle each other, because you know how siblings can be
Yeah.
sometimes. So
Well,
I know mine.
well, I have a 13-year-old, and well, she sat. This is the sassy one right here, because she the big sister and she know it.
And she make it known, huh?
Yeah. So, but my daughter, I think she handles it very well, because even in school, she tends to advocate for other people. She tends to be that person that stick up for people. And even the teachers tell me, like, she advocates and she speaks so well for others, even though sometimes she have a little attitude at home. But in the public, she speak and she do what she's supposed to do. And I know it's because she was raised with a disabled sister, and I taught her, don't tease people. Don't tease people. I don't care if it's color, disability, because you have a sister with disability. You treat people like you want to be treated. Sometimes you treat them better than you want to be treated.
Yeah, that's good.
And with your go ahead, Shortorah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, with your superheroes event, I'm sure you're teaching them to be superheroes and to show what they can, that pride.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about what your program is going to be like for that event.
So we're gonna have youth come out to that event, all ages for the youth, up to 12th grade. Age 26, because we're inviting the transition center as well.
Oh.
So that's what we want everyone to know, that you are a superhero. Those kids that have disabilities, they are superheroes.
Yes, they
Because
are.
each one of those kids have gifts too.
Yes.
When we're speaking to that, that's just like with Nehemiah, which I was a little bit shocked. But Nehemiah signed up for piano class.
Okay.
What?
But it's because I have taught him that he can do anything, and that's
awesome,
like,
Nehemiah.
he really believes that he can do anything.
Look
So
at
he
him
came
smiling.
home, he laid the syllabus down, and I looked. I'm like, is this choir? No, piano. So,
and that's the way that it should be. Go ahead, Evelyn.
It should be. So they are superheroes too.
So what about his siblings?
Him and his sister are 11 and a half months apart. So they're Irish twins.
Okay.
So my daughter is the same. Like, she will defend the child that nobody else plays with or talks to. She's a leader. And all her teachers recognize that in her. She's always willing to help people. Because of that, usually the siblings, they want to go into helping fields. So my daughter wants to be a pediatrician.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So both of these siblings can teach us a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
And teach the other children, because bullying is a big issue in the schools for all children.
For all children, it is.
And he had one bullying incident. He was in the Knots program. So they sign up for these programs, the Knots program, and they have mentors in the schools, in the township schools. So his mentor was a bully. He thought because he had a disability, that she can get away with certain things. But what she didn't understand is the village looked out. And those are kids at the school that don't have, disabilities, because they know Nehemiah and they know that that's Angel's sister. So she pushed them down and she kicked them on the playground, and that got reported quickly. But she thought that she could get away with that because who's watching, or really who's going to care?
Right. Well, that's the power of the community. As you said, the community was watching.
And that's why we're big on the inclusion and teaching our kids how to treat people and other kids. Because just think, if that girl hadn't saw that or went and reported it, we wouldn't know.
Exactly. And you want to treat them, as you said, to treat people the way you want to be treated, or treat them better than how you want to be treated.
That's right.
So what is the Knots program? I'm not familiar with that program.
So it's kids needing opportunities. It's like a social, like we have our social events. It's for them to do social things too after school. So the kids that don't have disabilities are having social events with the kids that do. So they have dances after school. They may play like basketball together, or do game night, or so. Yep, that's the Knots program.
Okay. And Nehemiah was smiling. So I guess most of the time he likes the program.
So it's kids getting opportunities to socialize. That's what they call it. Yeah.
And And there's another program I think one of you have as well, the self-determination program for mental health.
That's true.
Yes, so that's through Saginaw Community Mental Health. They started that program during COVID. It's a program that actually has funds. So, for example, myself with my daughter, I go to school full time, and they actually provide money that pays for a self determination worker. That's a worker kind of like respite, where they can take them out. They can come and help her with things. They can practice learning skills, cooking skills, anything in the household, anything within the community. And that's all free of charge to families, which a lot of families do not know about, but it's through Saginaw Community Mental Health. And it started during COVID, but these are funds that are readily available for people to get back in the work field. They pay 40 hours a week, and you can adjust and you pick your own worker, whether it's family or someone from their list.
So family can actually be the worker. I'm sorry, go ahead, Evelyn.
Yep. Family can actually be the worker, and they come out once a month to do like a home visit to make sure things are going okay, to make sure you're using the funds appropriately or whatever. But yeah, these funds are available, and they get paid, and the workers get paid every week. And to me, like for the summer, I wouldn't have survived for school without those funds.
So how do you get involved in it? I'm sorry, go ahead.
So you contact mental health, and they do an assessment for their intake to make sure you qualify. And if I'm not mistaken, it is a Medicaid funded program. I'm not clear on that, but so the person I deal with is Kaylin Streaker over at Saginaw Community Health. But I'm sure if anyone called, they can find out. But the name of the program is Self-Determination.
Okay. You don't have to be.
I'm thinking too recently that they went lower in the ages. So I'm not sure, but I'm thinking they've lowered the age for that funding.
So what is it? What was it before?
So at first it was more for the kids 18 and up, but I think because they have such a need, because a lot of daycare services are not available to people with disabilities, that they lowered it to help parents.
Oh, okay. But did you say so you can interview if you can just do an interview and see if that's the fit for you. They just don't give you anyone. Yeah, well, you have to go in, do the intake process. It's a process. You have to do the intake process. They have to make sure you're fit for the program. Okay. Because I can't just say I got a disability and they're gonna give it to me. You have to actually show proof that this person is disabled or have these services, and then they assist you.
And it's indefinite until the person doesn't need the services any longer? Or is it
you have to recertify every year.
Every year. No, but I'm talking about the worker, the actual, what do you call the worker? The self-determined.
So the worker I pick, so I interview, the person interviews their own worker and picks who they want to pick. Okay, that's what I was talking about. And they also make sure that they stay up on their training. So I keep track of training, make sure they got their correct car insurance if they're taking my daughter somewhere, to make sure they have their CPR up to date. Everything has to be up to date. And I keep track of that. And if it happens to expire, they'll kick out a letter to you letting you know it's expired and it's not done.
Whoa.
And all the training's online. Yep, all the training's online.
Online? Okay.
That sounds like a really essential program.
It is. It's well organized. I like it. I really like it.
So what is job coaching?
So job coaching for my program?
Yeah. What does that entail?
So job coaching would be practicing to write resumes, computer skills, just actually getting on, knowing how to log onto a computer and fill out an application. As is my daughter, I teach her how to get on a computer. Even if she's not filling out right, I feel like they should have access to these programs, because like Medicaid, all these programs are online now. There is no go fill out an application at the office anymore. And a lot of the families don't know how to get on a computer. Mm-hmm. So I actually had a grant written through Frankenmuth Credit Union where I was awarded a computer grant. So I actually supply and do programs where they come out and they're able to do these things. Or even if somebody loses a job or income just, unfortunately falls and need help filling out a food stamp applications, I know some people that work in that department and I can get them online and they can walk them through it.
So do you do this on your job, or is this something you do through your bit?
Through my nonprofit.
Do your
Yep.
So where do you do? Do you have a location where you do it?
Yeah. So we are at 6215 Dixie Highway. And me and Shortorah, actually, officers are right next in the same building.
Oh, okay.
So we decided to go to the same place, and we do everything out of there. And we and also her groups. That's what they'll be held at.
Oh, you do groups there too?
Yep.
Wow. Okay. How often are your groups? And when is it?
So the support group is monthly, and that's the thing too. You know, a lot of parents right now it's been virtually. Every fourth Sunday and sometimes every fourth Saturday, and the parents don't log on. I mean, so
what?
That's the yes. Even when they were in person, you have very few people that come out to get the information.
Well, we're putting it out there now.
Yes, so they can understand.
Yes, we're
That
putting
is
it
so
out
important.
there.
Yeah.
And in order to get involved, if they're watching the show tonight, should they go onto your website? Should they call you? What's the best way for individuals to get involved with your organizations?
To go on our websites. Because we have for them to sign up, they want to volunteer or donate.
Yeah. And the same for me to go on the Heart of the City 989.com. We have forms on there where you can sign up to volunteer, you can sign up to donate, and you can also sign up to receive information as well as to send our monthly newsletter if they choose to.
And the events are on there too. We have a section where we put our events on there so they're able to see what events are coming up.
Wonderful. Now, are you restricted just to Saginaw County, or do you deal with individuals outside of this area?
Everybody, all this around.
So the Great Lakes Bay region, anybody, if you come from out of town, I done had people reach out to me from Dakota asking me where I was at. And you know, I'm not down there, but if you ever come in town, you're welcome.
Right.
Everybody's welcome. We have open door policy, open arms. Like I said, if you need somebody to go to a doctor's appointment, if you need somebody to come to a school to an IEP, because a lot of people, when they invite you to the IEP, they don't tell you you can bring people with you. But if you need somebody, you can log on and fill out a form, and I'll go with you.
And for our audience, in case they don't know what an IEP is, can you explain that a little bit, Cherie?
Yes, it's an individual education plan. So these plans are based on the individual. It's like, say, my daughter's IEP is based on her goals, which her goals this year are learning more safety signs, which entails stop signs, which entails yield signs, which entails if the stove is on, knowing not to touch it, you know, things like that. Also, we're working on money management, because she was doing good and then COVID happened. So a lot of the money management skills, you know, sometimes y'all know she grown, and she don't see eye to eye with mama because she knows she's 24. You know? So sometimes she don't want mama to teach her. So the teacher does a better job sometimes, right?
Like with any of our children, right? Sometimes they learn better from somebody else.
Yeah, they do. But we try to keep those skills up as much as possible. I make her pay for things in the store. So, you know, I try to make her do as much as she can, because I don't never want her to go into the community and not be able to do some things. And God forbid, I'm not going to always be here. I want her to be able to do most things for herself, so she's not a burden on anybody.
Certainly. So you mentioned that you guys are advocates. You help families. You can go to these IEP meetings with them. Do you also go to doctor's visits if necessary? Is that another service you provide?
If they want us to attend doctor visits, we go to those too. I know with Nehemiah doctor, he lets me put information in the doctor's office. So I'm free to put like event flyers and information about the nonprofit in the doctor's office.
Well, you guys are doing so much.
Yes.
And how are you compensated? Do you just do this out the goodness of your hearts?
Goodness of our hearts.
Wow.
I'm compensated by grace. Let me tell you, I've been so blessed. So I started off in healthcare. I worked in healthcare for 23 years, and I after going through the transition process, I just decided to go to a whole new field, social work. So I feel like I've been compensated because through this, I have gained a scholarship. I don't pay anything for school.
That's wonderful.
And I feel like it's God grace, and He put me in place for a reason. I don't pay anything for school. I don't pay nothing for mileage. It all happened when I decided to step to the front for God.
Yeah.
Wow.
When you follow God's plan.
Yep, God's plan, and He educated me so I can advocate for others.
Yeah.
He knows the way.
Yes, He do.
And I know you were at Michigan Rehab Services before.
Yeah,
Shortorah,
so I was
correct?
a rehab counselor, and that's where I got a lot of my information from. Like a lot of things that people don't know. Like there's MCTI, so there's a technical school in Plainville, which is so far away. We don't have a technical school here for individuals that have disabilities, but they have a technical school in Plainville where adults who have disabilities can go there and they can get like CNA certifications, certification in weatherization programs, automotive, computer programs. That's when I learned about a lot of resources from working with MRS. Yep, they'll pay for them to go to school. They'll pay for their books. They pay towards their tuition. If their car breaks down, they'll help pay towards that. And that's a lot of information that it seems like our Black community doesn't know about. So it's about educating those, mothers too,
Yeah, and
minorities about those services. Because I give all the information. I mean, I don't hold anything in. So if I learn about it, I let other people know so that they have that same information.
Now, I'm not from this area. Where is Plainview? How far away is that?
It's close to Kalamazoo.
Oh boy, it's a long
In
way.
that area.
Okay.
Yeah. So I visited the campus and it's really, really nice. Like they get a chance to stay in the dorms and everything. So it's like getting that college experience out there. They have their dorm rooms and they have roommates and stuff, and they have social workers and psychiatrists and doctors on site.
On site.
So
Okay.
the only thing is the ones that attend there, they have to know how to go down themselves and take their medicine. So they'll keep their medicine, locked up for them, and then they report down there to take their meds when they're supposed to. And they have to know how to navigate through the campus as well.
By themselves, yeah. So that means everybody can attend. So
everybody can attend.
Yes. So it's
still a barrier there.
Yes, still a big barrier.
That's what we need here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know you're probably advocating to have a program closer.
Yeah, but we want it to be accessible to everybody with a disability, and stop putting those barriers up, and treat the community as one. Everybody always talk about a community as a whole. You cannot be whole if you don't include everyone.
Right.
No matter how you put it.
Exactly.
So on Facebook, someone wants to know the ages again of your foundations that you service.
So for the social events are for all ages. Once the programming starts for Heart of the City, it is 18 to 55. I chose 18 to 55 because it's for those individuals who are aging out of the secondary system. And I chose 55 because once they reach 55, they have those senior services. So there wouldn't be a gap in services, because right now where I'm feeling it's a gap. There's a gap in services for that age.
Shortorah?
My program ages are birth through 18 because a lot of parents don't get that early intervention for their kids. Like a lot of people always ask me about, how well he performs at school, because he does do well, in school, as far as, being able to get to his classes and, selecting what he wants to do and coming home and telling things that have happened and stuff like that. So I want to start birth through 18 so that other parents can get the resources that I didn't get when I had my son.
I love his smile.
Thank you.
And is the school system accepting of your program? Do they give information to parents about the program in the school system?
Well,
both
for the transition. So, I'm going to say for all, the transition center, the Millette Center, Success Center, those three. I mean, they have been wonderful. They put it out on Skyward. They put it on their school websites. So yeah, they are very supportive of getting the word out for the families in those schools.
I agree with that. I can say so too. Last year my Down syndrome walk was actually held at Heritage High School. So
Okay.
yeah, they're very supportive.
Oh, and that's also Delta College. So I attend
Okay.
Saginaw Valley, but Delta College also, we had a STEM program because we wanted to promote inclusion in STEM because we noticed that a lot of STEM programs are not inclusive of all abilities. So we had one just to bring awareness, and Delta was awesome. They provided their facility free of charge, and we had a STEM event there that brought out 200 people.
Yeah.
And it shows that it's a need. It's a
Yes.
need.
When was this? When did that happen?
That was June 3rd.
Oh, that just happened. Awesome.
Yeah, that just happened. And everybody asking us already when the next one.
So was that your first one?
That was our first STEM event, and we were motivated because we also volunteer and help Mr. Dante Davis with his STEM program. So we were motivated to try a STEM program to bring awareness for everybody, because some of these kids love STEM too, and like I say, I don't think it's intentional. Some people have their passion and they just go with it and they don't think about it. And of course our passion is people with disabilities because we have kids, so we tend to pay attention to everything,
Right.
but we just want to bring awareness that STEM is for everyone.
Everybody. So as a result, are there going to be programs that are developing, or what should we expect in the future?
For the STEM?
Yes.
For the STEM, we are going to try to do that every year because it turned out so well and so big, and we had so many supporters. We're going to try to do that every year, hopefully with Delta. And we're also going to try to do the back to school event, because the back to school event was another big hit that we had that brought out so many individuals, because we included K to 26. A lot of people have the back to school events and they forget about that 12 to 26, because in Michigan, people do not age out of the school system to 26. And they tend to forget about them when they say back to school, which is not including them. So, yeah.
Okay. And that event again is September 9th, you said?
September 9th. Yeah, September 9th at Buena Vista Community Center, and that's the anti-bullying and positive communication. We're going to have the mobile gaming bus. My daughter told me to make sure I say it right. Okay. It's not on that fire, but we've updated it. So we're going to have the mobile gaming bus come out so they can also enjoy some other activities as well as basketball. We're going to have some 3-point shooting contests. They can win some gift cards, gift prizes. And of course, we're always looking for donations for those events.
So with donations, if it's not monetary, is there any items that you need other than monetary?
Yes. So right now for this event, we're looking for like earbuds. We're looking for basketballs, because what we're doing is trying to do an icebreaker. And those kids who participate, we're trying to give them basketballs, just some positive things to get them talking, to actually put them in control of the conversation, because that's what we want. We don't want to take over the youth conversation. We actually want them to run the show.
Right.
Yes, want their voices to be heard.
Earbuds and basketballs. Anything else?
Earbuds, basketballs. We're looking for food donations if possible, drink donations. Yes.
Okay. That's good. That's great.
And then your event, Shortorah, is September the 16th. Is that the correct date?
Yes.
Okay. Anything that you're looking for your event as well?
Food donations, drink donations. I've had people donating like balloons, for some of the decor and stuff like that. So yes.
Do you do giveaways though?
Yeah, we do prizes. So, if they want to donate gift cards or kid prizes, those as well.
Yeah. And for our September 9th, we're actually doing two $200 giveaway for school clothes. Whoa. And we got some $70 gift cards that we're going to be giving away for that 3-point contest. So we just want the youth to come out, have fun, but learn to communicate and interact with each other in a positive way.
Awesome.
They both sound like fantastic events. So
yes. Wow.
So we're kind of winding down. Before we go into final comments, did you have any additional questions, Evelyn?
No, they pretty much answered mostly all the questions I had. I'm sorry, I just had so many.
They're a wealth of knowledge and have wonderful programs.
Yes. I'm intrigued with both of you, and everything you're doing. Yeah, so thank you. All I can say is thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your hearts are big and you're giving so much to the community.
Oh yeah.
Final thoughts in terms of what you'd like to leave people with?
Well, I would like to leave them with, tell people to learn as a community, treat everybody regardless of their ability the same, and to look with their heart, not with their eyes.
Um,
Beautifully said.
right. um, Mine is for those parents, that are having a difficult time with their child, that are having, with their understanding why God blessed them with their child. Because, in the beginning, you have a very difficult time, like, why me? But to understand that God gave you that child for a reason. There's something that God saw in you, some strength that you just probably haven't tapped into yet, that God already knows that you have. You're going to have difficult moments. There's going to be challenges, but keep going. And that we are here to support you.
Can I say one
That
more thing?
sure. That warms my heart, Shortorah.
I want to stay on here to ask our legislators to reach out. Ask our legislators to reach out to see how they can help. Everything doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be publicized, but sometimes you need to go to that small person to see what needs to be done in the inner community, not just, in the big spotlight, but just come into the community and see what we need.
Maybe we should have some regular meetings with the legislators to kind of clue them in on what are
Yeah,
some of the needs.
I've been working on
Okay. Yeah.
Good.
'Cause I can see a long list of services that need to hear in the Saginaw area.
Yeah.
There are a lot of them. Yes. We can do it collaboratively, right?
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Collaboration.
It takes a village, and you're part of the
It really
village.
does.
Yes.
Yes.
We need to rebuild that village.
Right.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
All right, I'll turn it over to Evelyn for final closing comments.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kai. I just hope that everybody enjoyed our conversation. I want to thank our panelists, Dr. Kai as being our gracious host, Shortorah Carter and Nehemiah, Cherie Long, and I Lexus. Thank you so much for staying with us this evening. Yes. We hope you join us again next month. And the topic to be determined, I'll surprise you. But I want to thank our sponsors again, Michigan Public Health Institute, and Nathan, who's our behind the scenes guy that makes sure you can see us and hear us. I want to thank Women of Colors Board and membership, our volunteers, the Women of Colors Community Forum Committee. And if anyone's interested in learning more about Women of Colors organization, go to our website, womenofcolors.org. And again, I want to thank you for joining us this evening. And I hope everyone has a great night.
You too.
You
Goodbye.
too.